Welcome to Brilliant Fools, brought to you by Greenhouse Services. My name is Adam Green. That's Green with an E on the end. Same thing for Greenhouse Services. And I am coming at this to address issues facing small to medium-sized businesses. Closely held businesses is probably a better word for it, or a better way to describe it. And just using the past 20 plus years of experience that I've had in that arena, working with and serving those businesses. But I want to build it on a foundation of Christ and Him crucified and what that means for us as we build businesses, that intentionally attack sin and death and destruction, that go out and seek to transform the world around us for good and for God's glory. And that's what I am seeking to find as we go through this process. I want to start here just by addressing some commonly held questions that come up, and I want to take it from a full point of view, because a lot of times you get things. I spent a long time in the accounting world, and the accounting world gets stuck in the accounting world as though numbers are the most important thing. They're important. They're very important when it comes to business, but then you can lose sight of the fact that good KPIs don't help people in their personal lives, and the effects that people's personal lives actually have when it comes to business, training good leaders, and that sort of thing. Now, I've spent time in the leadership development world as well. And in that world, you can get caught up thinking that that will solve everything. All you need to do is develop good leadership development habits, and it's good and it's important. There is no doubt, and it'll affect everything else. However, if you don't have the technical skills and the technical training in your accounting side of things, as a plumber, as an electrician, or if you can't swing a hammer and that's what your job requires, well, you're going to have issues. It doesn't matter what kind of leadership you have. You're not going to be able to perform that job necessarily as well as you should. So I want to take a view of it all the way from the ground level up to the 30,000 foot view and really try to see what it looks like. But we've laid that foundation of Christ crucified and raised again, and that His Holy Spirit living in us is what allows us to build good and excellent businesses that affect the world around us for good and for excellence. So let's take on a few questions. And we'll look at it from the aspect of it. Let's just get into it straight away here. Let's talk about cash flow. Okay, so how can you improve cash flow without taking on debt? Maybe there's a question that comes up, I think, a lot of times for a lot of people. And a lot of those pressures that can come into it are things like delayed payments from customers. What are your accounts receivables looking like? Okay, so who still owes you and hasn't paid for a while? Are you still doing business with that person even though they haven't paid for a while? That can be one of the hardest things to do, because especially as Christians, we can have a big heart and really want to serve people, and that's great. That's excellent. And if you want to do that, make that decision. I am going to serve this person, and I'm not going to charge them or expect payment. That's fine. But if you are running a business, the worker is worthy of his wages, and you should get paid for it. So you need to look at who still owes you and who isn't paying you. And maybe there are times that we need to say, you know what? Until you pay, we can't do any more service for you. You can build that right into your service offerings and right into your contract that people sign, or whatever the engagement letter or whatever it is that people sign to start off, and make sure they understand, I'm glad to do business with you, but if we don't get payment, we can't do more business with you in the future. If you're in a service-based business, whether you're going into people's homes and doing repairs, we can't do more repairs for you until you've paid what you owe beforehand. If you're doing legal services or accounting or something along those lines, we can't do your next year's tax return until you paid for last year's tax return, etc. So making sure that you have those cash flows moving forward is one excellent way to be able to increase your cash flow without taking on debt. That's a wonderful thing to think about. All right, so that's great. We've talked about a really down-to-earth side of things, ground level, boots on the ground cash flow management. That's a day-to-day business item, right? What about the 30,000 foot view? And I hope we don't get altitude sickness here because we're going to jump back and forth quite a bit. But what's a big question that comes in? Attracting and keeping good employees, skilled workers, reliable and skilled workers. I think that's a wonderful question to ask, but it's also one of those things that we need to make sure we're asking the right questions. There's a few areas that we tend to look at when it comes to building out a team, and that is there's an authenticity aspect, or the character of someone, making sure they have good character, their ability, making sure they're skilled in what they do and that their competency is very good. And then there's also their buy-in, the way that they come in and communicate and grow their connection, their cohesiveness with the team. Some people call it the 3 C's, your character, competency, and connection. Or you could say the 3 A's, so your authenticity, your ability, and your acceptance. Understanding what the position really requires and how to best achieve that is really a better starting point than, okay, I just need to get a licensed electrician in here, or I just need to get a credentialed accountant or something along those lines. A lot of times, if we hire for the character first, we can fulfill those other areas. We can get them licensed. We can get them credentialed if we have the right kind of character coming in, if we have the right fit for the position and for the company that we're in. However, there are other situations and other jobs where we do need to have those credentials, and those are more important. So understanding what it is that you're looking for, what the position requires, it's going to go a long way for you. Every situation's unique, but look, you're a unique individual just like everybody else. So there's no struggle that's come up that you're coming up against that isn't common, but your situation is definitely unique to you. Let's look at another area. How about something on the lines of operations? Okay. Where can you cut waste or even automate, try to increase the productivity that's going in? I think this is a big question right now. We'll get into AI a little bit later. AI is a different beast, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the big question of, can I automate in order to increase productivity? Are there manual processes that I can get out of in order to increase productivity? A lot of times those can come in the form of, say, your invoicing. A lot of your bookkeeping apps, like your QuickBooks and your Wave, things like that, Xero, they will automatically invoice for you to a large extent if you need them to. Sometimes you can hire that aspect out. You might get a virtual assistant to be able to go ahead and invoice or perform your accounts receivable functions, where they call the customers and say, hey, you're late on this payment. Or you can automate those things. We have one where the invoices go out, and if they're not paid by a certain time, another email goes out. If it's not paid by another certain period of time, another email goes out. So it's automatically sending out these invoices knowing that it hasn't been paid yet. And if somebody pays via other means, like a check that comes in, then we're going to have to update that ourselves. So that is a manual process. It's difficult to completely automate everything, but if you can automate, one of the questions going on right now is, the more we automate, aren't we taking away jobs from people? And I would say, in all likelihood, no. And my experience has been that employees appreciate the automation a lot more. Like, they feel like they can get more done. They feel like they're not under the gun and stressed as much if they can automate their processes as well. So if you can help your accounts receivable department automate the invoicing section, that's a great way to go. What are some areas that you know of that you could automate? What are some areas that you can think of where maybe I can actually make this process a little bit more seamless, help myself out, and help the operations out, help my employees out as well to have a better experience here. Let's think about something else along the lines of the compliance side of things. I'm not going to get into legal advice because I'm not a lawyer, and you should always check with your lawyer to see what's the best route to take. One of the biggest things that I hear is, how should I structure my business? LLC, partnership, S corporation, C corporation, and more often than not, those who have structured their partnership without consulting anyone first, there's something that they missed out on, or they're trying to do something that that structure may not let them do, either without major tax consequences or legal consequences involved with it. Two things I would suggest. Look at the differences. So your S corporation is going to be limited in what kind of shareholders you can have. If you have another partnership that wants to come in and have some interest in whatever business that you're doing, so if you have yourself and maybe a couple of people have a partnership and they want to come in as well in the partnership to have ownership, well, then you're going to need to explore something like an LLC, multi-member LLC, or a partnership that can own or be owned by other partnerships. So those kinds of things are questions that you're going to need to ask before you get going. What do you want out of it? Are you okay with it being a little less flexible? Are you, but potentially saving more taxes, or are you needing the flexibility and, okay, so I'll pay a little more in taxes, but at least I can do the things that I need to do as I'm going along. Those are the questions you're going to need to ask when you get into that. One of the major areas, though, excuse me, one of the major areas to consider is whatever business you start up, understand that your business is a business. You are not your business. Those two things should be treated as separate entities, yourself and your business, when it comes to the money side of things. However you structure it, make sure your business is doing business things with a business account, and you personally are doing personal things with your personal account. It is so easy when you're a closely held business to blur those lines. It's another area, great cash flow improvement. We'll get into that at a different time, some other episode, but keep those things separate. And that's the best way to ensure that you keep that veil of separation between you and the business, especially if anything legal or liable happens. It's a very good way to ensure that. But again, I'm not a lawyer. Check with your lawyer on what the best route to take is in that case. Let's look at this area of AI really quickly. AI is a big buzzword right now. What can I do to use AI in my business? How can I automate things? In its current state, AI is best used, and let me say this, I'm taking this from someone. This is not my own idea, but AI is best used as a pretty good intern. They'll do a lot of that work that you don't want to do, but you're going to need to go back and check their work. And you're going to need to go back and make sure that whatever it is that they have come up with is what you want, and it is where you want to be going. And it's going in the right direction. You may need to tweak it. You may need to ask them to rework it and figure out what you need to do. But it can be used as a good intern right now. The more you work with it, the more you understand it, the more you understand how to use it, the better it can work for you. And it does keep improving, but it's not replacing jobs as some have hoped that it would. But it is making life, I think, a lot easier if it's used the right way. A lot of ways, it's like any other software, any other computer system. It's great as long as you use it right. And that's kind of my broad overview of what AI is in its current state. A couple of other areas that come up often and have come up often over the years when it comes to closely held businesses. One of those One of those comes in the realm, I would say, of leadership development, personal development. You could call it owner burnout or something like that, where oftentimes in these businesses, there's too much dependency on the owner being there day to day. And it's a good question to ask yourself. If I miss tomorrow, will the business be able to continue on without me? Not just can I pick up and make up for what I missed for the next day, it's will the business continue to function just like it is now? The same thing for if I miss a full week. Do I have to build up to that week, make sure I'm caught up before I go, and then make sure I catch up on everything that comes in afterwards? Or is it possible for the business to run without me? Now, the answer to that question may be no, I have to be here every day. There's a question of burnout in that case, for sure. And there's a question to be asked of, am I developing the people around me? Am I developing leadership? Do I have the systems in place? Do I have the ideas in place that I need in order to be able to help the business continue to run and function? But more than that, and what I've seen people get into trouble with is when it comes to succession, exit planning. How do I get out of this business? If it depends on me being there, then it's harder for me to get out of it. If it depends on me being there and I want to sell it, I'm not going to get as much. The value's not there as much unless I'm there. So if I sell it, I may still have to work in it. And I may still have to be there and may not be able to retire when I want to if it's dependent on me being there. If I want to give it to my family members, I've seen this over and over again where my daughter or my son, they don't want to be involved in it. They see the work that I do, they don't want to do it. They just don't want to work hard enough. Well, maybe it's that they don't have the same passion. Maybe it isn't the business that they started, so they don't have the same passion to continue it. They don't have the same passion to see it succeed in the same ways. They don't have potentially the knowledge of what to do with it if they did get it. There's all kinds of reasons where that can come into play. So the idea is to clarify what that succession is going to look like. And when you clarify what succession is going to look like, if you don't want to just shut it down, you can go a little bit farther with it. I've seen businesses that should have gotten far more. When they sell for $10,000 because the owner is that closely tied to it. They've got a client list, so they can actually sell that customer list to someone. They get a little bit of money for that, but beyond it, they just don't get much. I've seen businesses that probably should have sold for less, sell for $17.5 million. Because they had something set up and in place that was a system. But even in that case, the owner stuck with it for a couple of years, was there and available for any kind of ideas or questions that may needed to be asked to be able to be there and be available to see a good, solid continuation. So understanding what succession is and how it works for you is a very important point. All of these things I bring into play just because I've seen them. I've seen them often, and I've seen them come up. And understanding what these questions are and how to address them is a very important point. I wanted to hit a lot of different areas today, and I'll probably do that a little more often. I'll take more episodes and just hit certain specific, really dig into one specific area and see what it is that I've had experience with, what I've seen work, what I've seen fail, as well as what maybe the Bible says about it, how we should address it and how it should go. But I appreciate you being here and hope that this has helped kind of whet the appetite a little bit and get you to think a little bit more about how is my business running? How is it working? Am I pursuing excellence in what I'm doing? Am I pursuing it for the right reasons as well? One thing that goes beyond anything else that I've seen is if I pursue it for myself, I get burned out pretty quickly. I get frustrated. I get unfulfilled. But if I try to do it for other people and ultimately for the Lord and His glory, I can go for a lot longer. I can keep pushing and I can keep going. The concept of being a brilliant fool, if I have all this knowledge and I share it with no one and I don't actually use it and apply it well, there's no wisdom in that. That's just foolishness. So I can be as brilliant as I want to be and still be a fool. And I can walk around being a brilliant fool. The other concept of being a brilliant fool is God has not chosen the wise of this world. Not many wise, not many noble, not many of those are chosen, but rather the foolish are chosen to shame the wise because God's doing the work. So I would rather be a fool for Him and see Him get the glory than I would be brilliant for myself and be burned out. And an attempt to build my life and gain it, I end up losing it. I hope this has been helpful. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.